Hey guys, welcome to the Powerful Man Show, where we help married businessmen save their marriages without having to talk about it, get unstuck, and gain clarity in their lives. As I like to say, life is too short for average. I'm your host, Doug Holt, with my co host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. Now let's get this started.
Mr. Dougie Fresh. How are we, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Having a great start to the day. Got the 5 a.m. workout in, up early, and
Yeah.
been talking to you for the past, geez, what is it, 4 hours, 4.5 hours off and on?
Yeah, it is. What a great start to your day.
It is a great start to my day. Workout was tough,
So
but I'm recovering.
nice. What did you do for your workout?
So as you know, I started doing CrossFit about 2 years ago, which is kind of funny because I used to make fun of CrossFit. I did before that again. But anyway, the workout today was 1,000-meter row. It was
Mhm.
heavy back squats, 5 sets of 5. And then the workout itself would be zero point 0.2 miles on the assault bike. And as soon as you're done, you jump off and do as many pull-ups as you can within a 2-minute window, right? So as soon as you touch the bike, your 2 minutes starts.
Mhm.
Then after that 2-minute window, you get back on the bike for another zero point 0.2 and you do,
Okay.
right. So you have to do 100 pull-ups in this fashion, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and 100 air squats. And you have 30 minutes to do those all with every 2 minutes jumping back on the bike.
Got it. Got it.
So
Oh
I never
wow.
got to the air
Nice.
squats. I got to 96 sit-ups. So 100 pull-ups, because it's 3 miles on the bike if you do the math
Yeah.
total. It was brutal,
Well,
man. Pull-ups, I haven't
right.
learned the CrossFit kipping pull-up yet. So I'm just doing real
Uh,
pull-ups. It's really what I look like. If you guys can imagine this, guys listening to this, is if you ever seen one of those guys in the videos that's just flailing his legs trying to get up to the pull-up bar, man, when I hit like 90 pull-ups, I mean, it's just a lot. My hands friggin' are all torn
oh
up.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it was tough at 5 in the morning. It's like, it's brutal.
Nice. Unassisted as well.
Yeah, unassisted. Yeah, flailing legs, but yeah, unassisted.
Wow, nice.
Just
Nice.
lots of chalk on the
Nice.
hands.
Good for you. It's a nice workout.
Yeah, you should give it a shot
Yeah, I've been loving my fighting lately for the past maybe year or so. I'm loving it.
with your partner
Um,
or what?
all over my life. No, like MMA, but I'm not as far in as MMA at all. I started with boxing and Thai boxing and doing some wrestling, BJJ, that kind of stuff.
That's MMA.
Yeah. Although I can't really do BJJ. Like I'm
Yeah.
I'm just I'm
Yeah.
just getting the hang of it. I couldn't really do anything
I've been there. I've been there.
apart for grip on for dear life. So
And
yeah,
watch guys slither like a snake around you as they start to choke you out.
exactly. And the worst thing is, I'm like panting, like head against head. I'm like, "Ah, ah," and they're just like breathless, leaning on me, and
Oh yeah.
I just obviously burn out after like 30 seconds or a minute, and then they just tie me like up like a pretzel. So, but I'm enjoying it. I'm just
Good.
loving. I'm loving overcoming a lot of stories and fears in the process of learning to fight. Really, especially Thai boxing and sparring. We're doing a lot of sparring. Today was just 3 rounds on the bags, 3 rounds of kicking. So I kick, block, trader kick, all that kind of stuff. Bum, 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 bum. So that was fun. Then 3 rounds sparring. And then uh, yesterday was 12 rounds, 3 rounds of BJJ, 3 rounds of sparring, 3 rounds on the pads, and 3 rounds on the bag. So the bag is obviously the warm up.
I wish I had something like that around here. I just don't. There's nothing around here like that. I mean, I have a heavy bag here in my quote man cave. But I'm laughing because guys that are listening to this have been to any of our brotherhood events or inner circle events. Eventually, at some time in the evening, not saying there's any particular reason, it's always at night, you and Arthur start play fighting each other and messing about. Usually, day one, you don't see anything. Guys at Alpha Resets wouldn't see it because it's always behind the scenes. But somewhere in the mix, you guys start like slap boxing each other. And now that you're actually training, this is going to get interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and he does Krav Maga, so his natural instinct is just to grab like the ashtray and hit me around the head.
Yeah.
He just wants to end it as fast as possible. Not that he does that, but yeah, it will. It's fun. It's fun. So anyway, I wanted to bring a topic to the table today. I think it's one that I think you probably struggled with at times. Honestly, I know I certainly have. The listeners, I'm guessing, probably will have too. Um, so, as you know, I've been diving into a lot of the work that we take the men through.
Mhm.
You know, we have a philosophy, right? What you think in your mind, you feel in your body, and it's a big part of what guides the transformations at the Alpha Reset, right? And I arrived at a point a while ago where classic story, right? You have everything that you think should make you happy. And I'm looking around my life. I'm looking at what you and I have built in a building and the men we get to serve and the experience and the results and the lifestyle and relationship. And obviously, no, nothing's perfect. At the same time, there's a lot of reasons to be happy. There's a lot of growth. Uh, very much the place where I would have wanted to be 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right? But for some reason, the quote unquote success just wasn't landing for me. And I don't know if you've ever been in that position. It's almost like you enter, I say almost, it is like the five agonies. The first agony feeling empty, which kind of we call greed because the way that you try to solve the emptiness is by doing more. Well, I'll just try harder. I'll just maybe it's going to be the next million. Maybe it's going to be the next transformation. Maybe it's going to be the next whatever, right? And when that doesn't land, you then get frustrated because it's oh god, why is this not landing? What is wrong with me? Which then goes to the shame, right? I should feel better. Why can't I enjoy this? I should be happy. Why am I being ungrateful? All the stories that go with it. But then obviously you put a mask on to everybody else because you don't want them to tell because it just sounds illogical. It sounds stupid. Like, come on, look around. You've got no reason to be unhappy. But you feel a certain way, but you also don't want to tell anyone, which then kind of leads to the fourth agony of loneliness, right? You stop being around people as much. That shame just begins to stack. You start to act out of character. You might drink a bit more because you're not feeling too good. You may, guys may vape weed. They may go to porn. They may whatever. There's tons of ways we all sedate, which obviously leads to the fifth agony of uncertainty because you know you can't continue down that path forever because there's going to be prices. People may leave you, be it in business, be it in your relationship. The business may not last. There's all sorts of things that become uncertain. So I was in this position. I didn't realize it at the time. And especially for you and I, it's kind of like, well, I know better, right? We teach this stuff. We know better. But at the end of the day, we're human beings. So as I dived into this and as I was taken through some processes that following that philosophy of what you think in your mind, you feel in the body, I just had heaviness in my chest. It was in the middle of my kind of like my solar plexus. It just felt heavy. It felt like I couldn't take a full breath, like a fully deep breath. And it wouldn't go away. I mean, it'd go away temporarily. Like I'd work out and I'd have a hard workout, I'd push myself, I'd be breathing deeply and so I wouldn't notice at the time. After the workout, I'd feel good. Then all of a sudden I'd start sighing throughout the day. And Amelia's saying, "Are you okay?" I don't even realize you're doing it. I'm feeling heavy. Anyway, the outcome of this was what I came to realize was I was storing a lot of contraction within my diaphragm. So to get a bit technical for a moment, um, obviously I was holding on to sadness. I felt heavy. I didn't realize it was sadness at the time. Just felt heavy, but I wasn't feeling the winds. they weren't landing. Opposite of sadness is joy with those wins, right? But because I wasn't giving myself the space to express and experience that sadness, it was storing as contraction in my body, which then resulted in the heaviness. It was only when I went through some processes that we take the men through that I was able to actually let it out. There weren't many tears, which was kind of weird. I was going through it and I'm thinking, hang on, there should be tears. Surely there should be tears. But I was going through this sobbing action, like real loud sobbing, like a baby, like my facial expressions, my body position. I had a memory of being a baby. It was like I was being a baby. No tears though. Um, and as I said, I was kind of watching at the same time, thinking this is strange. No tears. There should be tears. And then it paved the way for laughter, and I started laughing. The laughter kind of started slowly and then built. And then again, watching myself whilst I'm doing this, thinking, hang on a minute, what's funny? I should find something. What am I laughing at? And then it paved the way for happiness. And I'm looking at this journey over the course of like 30 minutes, however long it was, time kind of faded away, thinking, this is insane. Like, am I bipolar? Like, am I insane? Like, I'm happy right now. Why am I happy? To answer the question, Doug, why am I happy? What reason am I happy? And anyway, one of my mentors who was leading me through this, I was kind of debriefing with him on it, saying about feeling insane. And he said, no, you're not insane. The insanity of our time is favoring the intellect over your emotion and having to find a reason to be happy versus just allowing yourself to be happy, or equally for you, pushing the sadness away because there was no reason to be sad. But because there was no reason to be sad, the same muscle reflex that is involved in laughter is the same reflex that's involved in crying. And because I wasn't allowing myself to actually sob and cry, I also wasn't fully allowing myself to laugh and be happy and experience joy either. I was kind of in this neutral zone of just tension. And I went downstairs and I was sharing this with Amelia. And she said, wow, that must be really tiring. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? She's like, always needing a reason to be happy. And at first, I said, no, you don't get it. You're living in absolutes. I don't always need a reason to be happy. It's just this time. And then I took a step back and I thought about it. And I thought, she's right. Like, I actually do need a reason to be happy, or I have been needing a reason to be happy. And I started to think, well, why not? Why not be happy? And I couldn't find a good enough reason not to be happy. And it came up on the inner circle call today with one of the men talking about how he was, gets out of bed and he sometimes feels a bit down, and went into the story of why he was down. And we spoke about tiredness and other things. And the reality was he was kind of addicted to being unhappy.
Yeah.
When we asked him, hey, okay, what reason have you got to be unhappy right now? Why not just be happy? He couldn't give one. He could give some he could give some things he may change in his life right now, but no real reason to be unhappy. So I wanted to talk about that, really, the obstacles that we put between ourselves and being happy, and how we have to always, or often, have to have a reason to be happy versus actually just being happy. Like, what's your take on it? Have you ever experienced it?
Nope, I'm always happy. Never in my life have I ever been sad, depressed, or upset. Yeah, we all go through this, right? This is the human condition in a lot of ways. I don't know if it's just modern times. I don't know if I agree with that. And I think a lot of things happen here. So first off, like when you get to a peak, right? When you reach a peak, how do you know it's a peak? In mountain climbing, right? So you guys picture the highest peak you can see. How do you know it's a peak? You only know it's a peak if you're down lower, right? So in order to recognize a peak in your life, you have to have a valley or a floor. And it's the same thing with emotions, right? What worries, what I don't think is anybody's always happy. Because if you're always
No.
happy, then you're clinically insane, right? That's just, you can't. You have to have both emotions. That's why, people who want pleasure, want to experience pleasure, but they don't want to go through the pain of getting it. Well, it doesn't work that way. Pleasure and pain are yin and yang, right? They come together. Happiness and sadness come together, right? They just are. It doesn't mean you can't predominantly be happy, because I do believe you can, and you can choose happiness over depression and sadness often, because it is a choice, because people do become addicted. But what I want to reiterate to the listeners is like, hey, if you're in a valley right now, in your marriage or anywhere else, that's okay. Right now, it's time for you to throw on your backpack, grab your rope, and start climbing up the peak. Right. And that's what the activation method really is. Right. We go, okay, guys, look, we help you recognize you are in a valley and there is a peak that you want to climb. We're basically like the expert mountain guides in the relationship category to help guys get there. So if you're always in that state, you're there. But also, to your point, it becomes very easy you know, to not be grateful, right? And that can,
Hmm.
when you're not in a state of gratefulness, you're usually in a state of sadness or depression. And what I think happens for guys like you, Tim, and guys like me, is we set a goal, right? Whatever that goal may be. And when we set the goal, we have a future self that we want to become. And in between the man we are today and that future man, there's a gap that's created. Within that gap has the opportunity for sadness, depression, because we're not there yet. And that's where we get to really, and that's what we teach at the Powerful Man, especially at the Alpha Reset, is we get to enjoy the journey of that gap. Because as soon as you get to that goal, that future self, and you hit that, guess what you do? Automatically. We all do it. Every guy listening to this is an alpha guy,
Hmm.
right? You might be deactivated in your marriage right now. Totally get it. But you're an alpha guy. Otherwise, you wouldn't be attracted to this podcast. As soon as we get to that goal, we set another goal. And guess what? We create another gap. And so it's easy to allow ourselves to fall down into the valleys when that gap is created. Now, the gap's not usually created consciously, it's created subconsciously. And
Hmm.
unless we get into the process of recognizing that gap, it really can hold us back and hold us down. And that I've experienced so many times. What I've gotten better at, as soon as I recognize myself being in that state, I go, okay, let's go back to a gratefulness practice. What am I grateful for right now? And that's where it's easy to find. And guys listening to this, if you're in a bad space right now in your marriage or in other areas of your life, you can be grateful to be alive. You can be grateful that you have children, right? You can be grateful for a lot of reasons, and make it easy on yourself to find that gratitude, because that can help you take out of it. I'm with you and as well, Tim, the idea that we almost have to create this event to allow us to be happy, like going and doing something, right? It's the act of
Hmm.
doing. And what we talk about a lot also with the guys is, instead of going from do, instead of doing, having something, and then you get to be happy. So it's do, have, be. And that's what most of us get in, especially in business. We do the task, the work, then we get the new car, the new house, whatever, sex, love, and then we get to be happy. We get to be respected or what have you. And that's just what society teaches us. That's what marketers spend billions of dollars teaching us, right? Because we have to have the thing that they're selling us in order to get this emotional state. That's marketing 101, or it's probably
Hmm.
103. But anyway, that's where you want to get to. But what we teach the Powerful Man is the opposite. It's be, do, have, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think the biggest takeaways, the biggest lessons for me when I went through this, and I think maybe for the listeners too, and you kind of touched on this, is accepting where you're at and being okay with it. Like, for example, for me, I would achieved a goal, right?
Yeah.
And for some reason, it wasn't landing for me in the way that it quote unquote should have, the way that I thought it should do.
Yeah.
And I resisted the feeling of dissatisfaction. I resisted the feeling of sadness, really. And the sadness could be completely unrelated to the thing you've achieved. It could be something else that's going on in your life. It could be It could be from the the weight of what you've been through on the journey. It could be relief. It could be all sorts of reasons why you're experiencing it and heaviness that could be masked in the sadness, right? So I think the first thing is removing the label of it being good or bad, recognizing that hey, if you're in a valley, like you said, get the backpack on, get a guide, and go into that sadness and give it some attention. It's kind of like shining a torch and you shine it in the dark corner and the darkness turns to light, right? But so often we're scared of venturing into those places. But in my experience, both personally and from working with God, thousands of men, the darkness is never as dark as it might seem. Never is. So it's a story that we tell ourselves about the darkness that makes it far worse. It's kind of like the tales of monsters underneath the bed as a kid, right? And then you stay in bed and you're terrified of looking under the bed. You think, oh, what's going to be there? What's going to be there? And you get out and you look into the bed and you're like, oh, actually, there's nothing there. Or it was just a teddy and it was a reflection that was coming through and making it look bigger than it needed to be. So the first, I think one of the first lessons is that if you're feeling that way, that's okay. Go into it. And the second one is that reason, like putting obstacles in the way of yourself being happy. To your point, the do have be versus be do have. Putting time between you and happiness. Believing that you need something, you have to arrive at some point, you've got to buy something, you've got to do something, and then you'll be happy because it's just not going to happen. I think it's so easy to fall into that trap. And actually, if you think about it, hang on a minute. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't be happy today. Well, I was talking to a guy yesterday, and everything's going great for him in his life. Really fantastic. He just wants to have more sex. But he keeps focusing on the fact that he wants more sex. He doesn't have enough sex, right? So I said to him, okay, so let me get this straight. What you're telling me is if you were just to be having more sex and intimacy right now, you would be happy. That would be a 10 out of 10. And he said, yeah. I said, okay, so nothing else would come up for you at that point for you to then be unhappy about. And he said, well, probably, yeah. Something had probably come up. Okay, so that thing isn't going to make you happy. You're always going to be moving the goalposts.
100%.
Do you think it might be increase your likelihood of having more sex and intimacy if you were happier now? Well, yeah, of course, I'd be way more attractive to my wife. Okay, so if you were happier now, it's going to increase the likelihood of that. Can you give me one good reason why you shouldn't be happy right now? And he said, no, no. I can't, but he wanted to hold on though. He wanted to fight for it.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know, he wanted to fight.
Yeah.
And then you could see him start to smile and he realized, and I said, what if you were just kind of addicted to beating yourself up and being unhappy? Because most guys are afraid they're going to lose the drive, right? If they allow themselves to be happy right now, they're afraid they'll lose their edge because they've been driven by pain for so long. But it doesn't need to be that way. And this guy was in kind of going down that path. He was also afraid of letting go of control. Being unhappy was so familiar. The idea of being happy was one way I'd have to let go of control of all the things and ideas of the reasons why he should be unhappy. And it was that sense of freedom and release and letting go that also terrified him, which I found fascinating.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. We get into these habits, right? This happens. Marriage is an easy one to look at of what we associate. So for this guy, he's holding on to this story of being unhappy, like it's a kid holding on to a blankie, right? I love this guy. He's got an infectious smile. So if he's listening to this, he knows very much how I feel about him. And right, we also do this with our partners. When your wife walks through the door, you have a reaction. Now it could be, oh shit, what's going to happen. It could be amazing. She's here. I can't wait to share my day. It could be all kinds of things, but you do have a reaction. And where else are you having this? Like what, like in other words, well, for you, Tim, are there certain places that cause you to be happier than others? Are there certain things that cause you to be happier? I was listening to a guy speak, and he was talking about one of the greatest things that came out of the pandemic for him is, it came out for a lot of people, is he completely redid his office space. He didn't see a problem with it before. But during the pandemic, right, he had nothing else to do. And like a lot of people, they went to home improvement stores and, fixed their houses up because they spent so much time there. But this guy fixed his office space up, really did it nice, as he described it. And one of the things he notices is instantly his stress went down and he
Mm.
enjoyed being in the space. And thus his creativity and productivity increased as well. And this is a year after, so it seems like a reasonable amount of time to think about it, of course, right? It's not like just 1 week like the shiny new car smell, but it's a year after. And so what I would really encourage the listeners to think about is, what are your default moods? Right? What around you? Like, we all know there's certain people that when they come around, we're like, oh, you just don't want to be around them. You don't want to talk to them. You don't want to associate up with them. If you got kids, that means you are hanging out with the parents of your kids' friends from time to time, especially little ones. I find myself in this situation. And there's certain dads I'm just like, I don't necessarily need to be around, right? I have a visceral reaction to them. I try and I do my best, right? Because it's not for me, it's for my wife, my kids too. But point being, that's just an example. But where else in your life is it causing unhappiness? For a lot of you guys, it's in your marriage, right? A lot of guys listen to the show because they're killing it everywhere else, but except for in their marriage. So, okay, what's the visceral reaction you're having? Like, what exactly is going on here? And I think that could be an interesting situation.
Mm.
I remember, I'll leave with this story, Tim, is I remember this is out of college. I was watching a comedian. He was like a comedian slash personal development guy, and I don't have his name. So, and I won't try to retell his whole skit because I'd butcher it. But I do want to give him attribution if possible. But he was talking about a story, and basically what he was saying is, he's working on his book or something, and this goes in, and his wife comes in to talk to him, and he's like, yeah, I'm busy right now. I'll talk to you later. And his wife kind of goes out of the room. Then he walks into the room where his wife is, and his wife's also very abrupt to him and just not really talking to him. It was kind of interesting to see. Then all of a sudden, the dog comes in the room, right? And is just wagging its tail like crazy, going nuts. And his wife gets excited to see the dog, bends down, pets the dog, etc. Wife walks out of the room, dog lays down, right? Wife walks back in. No more than 2 minutes later, dog gets up, tail is wagging, it's going nuts, excited to see his wife. His wife is excited to see the dog. And it dawns on this guy, what if I was more like the dog? My wife walked in the room. If I was excited to see her, do you think she would change the way she reacted when she saw me? And I think we can apply that to other areas of our life as well. I know it's not initially what you were talking about when we started this, but as this conversation evolves, like, guys, take inventory of your environments, take inventory of the people you spend time with, take inventory of the activities you're doing. Tim and I had a conversation today about the things within the movement that Tim enjoys and the things he doesn't enjoy. Right. And that's an important conversation for your business. What in your business are you doing that you just don't like? Right. What in your business are you doing that you absolutely love and would like to do more of? Now, you don't necessarily get to switch that today, but you could try. And what about your relationship? Are you being like the dog when your wife walks into the room? Are you like the dog that gets up, wags its tail, smiles, and is excited to see your wife? Or are you like this guy was, and most of us previously were? You're in your phone, you're doing something else, you kind of ignore her, you kind of acknowledge her, but maybe you're a little upset because you're not getting laid. You're a little upset because you had an argument the next day. The dog always wags its tail. Like, you could kick that dog, and I'm not saying do it. I never have, but you could kick that dog, walk out of the room and walk back in. Guess what? That dog's gonna be wagging its tail, excited to see you. Right. So be more like the dog and take inventory in your relationships in your life. And I'd love to hear how it goes for you.
Yeah, and there's one thing I'd like to add to that. You you said what causes you to be happy.
Yeah.
Um, my alpha rise and shine. There's a
Yeah.
direct correlation between the consistency of my alpha rise and shine, and in particular, two exercises. One of them is the work I do to get into my body, so breath work and other things. There's different things there. Once I've done that, man, I feel various things depending on the type that I do, whether it's grounded, calm, energized, excited, whatever it may be. And then also journaling, journaling about a lot around my identity, quite honestly, and vision. Who I am, what I stand for, how I'm going to show up in that day, and various things. When I do that, and then I also check in with obviously my goals and the things we've got going on. I do it consistently and journal on an evening if I feel like I need to, because I resisted that. I used to do it, and I stopped because it kind of waked me up and got my mind going a bit. And over the past year or two, I've not done it, and my sleep quality has gone down a bit because I go to bed and my mind is still going. So now I've reintroduced this journaling at some point in the evening. If I need to, not every evening, it's not a routine. It's just if my mind is going, I'll get my journal out and get a load of stuff down. But yeah, the Alpha Rise and Shine, and also the weekly review within the Alpha Rise and Shine, that gives me so much happiness because of the perspective I get. I'm able to zoom out, see the win, see how I'm showing up in alignment with who I want to be, the progress that I'm making, that we're making, and it's huge. It really is. It's all about hitting those singles, right?
It is. It is all about hitting those singles. And it's doing the little things that we always talk about, for the guys, alpha rise and shine. We've talked about that a lot. But also the alpha decompression, which I know you do really well. And a lot of guys don't. And that was a game changer for me and for a lot of the men, is how do you switch off from work mode, especially as a business leader, where you're just crushing it all day. You're telling people what to do. You're making decisions at a very high level. And you can't do that in your home. You just can't. Like there's a guy in Workplace, which is our private community. It's the software we use for our private community for the men, because we don't want them, on a normal platform. And the guy sat down. He's like, "Yep, I'm going to sit my wife down for a regular meeting, and here's the agenda. I run these at work all the time, so this is perfect. I'm going to run it the same way." And all the more experienced guys jumped in. They're like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! Hold, pump the brakes. Love that you're doing a regular meeting. Love your intent, but maybe we do it a little differently." And I've been there, man, so many times. It's crazy. So there's just these little tweaks that we get to make along the journey, right? And remember, when you've created that gap, which we all have a gap, right? From the man we are today to the man we want to be, remember that gap was created consciously or subconsciously by you, and enjoy it, and enjoy that process as you're going through it. Because that's where the real value is, because 99% of the time you're going to be in the gap.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
Yeah, great topic, Tim. I love you bringing this to the table. I really enjoyed it. Guys, I want to know how you're taking massive action. We always say in the moment insight, take massive action. Remember, right now, when you get an insight, you automatically subconsciously create a gap. How are you going to fill it? No talk, just action. See you next time, guys. All right, guys, that's a wrap for this episode. But as I always say, in the moment of insight, take massive action. You see, there are two types of men that listen to a podcast like this. Those that go on from one podcast or show to another, just hoping things are going to change and realizing that they're going to be in the same place month after month, year after year. You see, I was this guy, so I completely get it. You may just not be ready. But there's also a second man that listens to a show just like this. And this is a guy who takes massive action so they can shorten the learning curve, compress time, and get results to be the wolf. See, wolf is an acronym for wise, open, loving, and fierce. Now, ask yourself, which one am I? And just be honest with yourself there. And there's no judgment on my end, but if you're ready to move from deactivated deer mode, which is defend, excuse, explain, react, to activated wolf, wise, open, loving, and fierce, then go over to thepowerfulman.com/grow and go there now. In fact, I'll make it super easy for you. I will even put the link right in the description here, so you can just click it and go over there now to learn more. Guys, in the moment of insight, take massive action, go from deactivated to activated, because like I said, life is too short for average. And I'll see you on the next episode.